Hello and welcome back to Matt Hayes' Tottenham Blog and the first episode of Tottenham Hotspur Transfer Talk, the first Tottenham transfer roundup of the 2022 summer window. And we got quite a bit to get through today, as Jack Pitt-Brooke has reported that Tottenham are prioritising the signing of a left centre-back this summer, with the players Joško, Gvardiol and Alessandro Bastoni top of the list. We'll also talk about Darwin Nunez, a Benfica striker that Tottenham have been linked to, and Sam Johnstone, who Tottenham are the favourites to sign on a pre-contract deal as a backup goalkeeper this summer. We'll also look at some potential departures, including one for Giovani Celso, who shone in Villarreal's Champions League victory against Bayern Munich last night, as the Spanish club look to complete a permanent deal this summer. Before we do get into that, it's a pleasure to be back. Thank you everyone who is tuning in. We had some people in here early as well. We had Tony Young. Just get these comments up. We had Tony Young. We had the Bertie 1008 as well. We got Lil Baz, Matt Hayho. Very, very nearly a brilliant name. Thank you everyone for tuning in. It's saying there's a black screen there. I don't know if that shouldn't be happening. Just give me a minute there. Not quite sure where that's happening. Let me know if you can see me now. I can see myself in my camera, so I'm not sure why you wouldn't be able to see me. But I'll just keep going while we're trying to fix this. Please do let me know if it's fixed in the live chat. And we'll start with Tottenham's pursuit of a left centre back. No, it's still black. I've no idea what's happening. Just give me 2 seconds and we'll be back. Right, if that hasn't fixed it, I don't know what the issue is. I see Madison is a lens capsule on. I can see myself perfect on my side of things. I think there we go. That should be sorted now. I don't know what that was, but we are here and we can get into this news. I apologise for the delay there. Only the 47 people watching. That's not embarrassing at all. But look, Jack Pitt-Brooke has given us the news that Tottenham are looking to sign a left centre-back as priority this summer. I wrote an article for the Opta Analyst the other day talking about how Conte has improved the centre-back options that we have in our team at the moment, and how he's turned them into these players that are exactly what he wants to bring in terms of players who are really good in possession, really good out of possession, stepping out of the defence. We're going to look quite a bit at two of those defenders that Tottenham will be looking to bring in the left centre-back role. So look, just to get started, Jack Pitt-Brooke has said Spurs want to spend big on a left centre-back, potentially as much as they spent on Christian Romero last summer. It is a priority, and their targets include Joško, Gvardiol, Sven Botman, Nico Schlotterbeck and Alessandro Bastoni. Now, Mike McGrath said last month, as via the Spurs Express on Twitter, that Lille defender Sven Botman was on the list of potential Tottenham defensive targets, and he also mentioned then Gvardiol and Bastoni. So there's clearly a direction that Tottenham are trying to bring in. This is one they've been looking at for quite a while. And having looked at this article by Jack Pitt-Brooke, it's very, very clear why Tottenham are targeting mainly Gvardiol and Bastoni. So we'll dive into them. We won't look much at Sven Botman because it is looking increasingly likely that he will end up at AC Milan this summer. And Nico Schlotterbeck, I think, is just a backup option if our main targets don't come through. Tyler says, why isn't Pau Torres an option? He turned us down last summer. I think it was because we weren't in the Champions League. He's happy in Villarreal. Of course, they're doing very well in the Champions League as well at the moment, and potentially back in there next season. I think if Villarreal do make it back into the top European competition, I think Pau Torres will turn down any club that tries to come in and get him, because he's Villarreal through and through, been a fan since he was a child. So I think that's a place that he'll be staying potentially long term if they keep going on the upward trajectory that they're showing with Unai Emery. Look, first of all, let's look at Joško Gvardiol. He's a player that we have mentioned on the channel a few times before. The first time was over a year ago when we were facing Dynamo Zagreb in the Europa League, which I'm sure is something we don't really want to talk about too much. We had Euro expert Alex, a good friend of the channel, on, and he identified Joško Gvardiol as a very, very important player for Zagreb, and one that had a bright future. At the time, I think he was on loan from RB Leipzig. It turned out that Gvardiol didn't actually play either of those games against Tottenham. course, Zagreb didn't need him. But he's a really, really good player. He's still only 20 years of age and has been absolutely incredible for RB Leipzig this season. He's a left back come centre back, which I think is the ideal kind of profile of player that we should be looking for in that left centre back role. It's exactly what Ben Davies has done with him. It's probably because with the age that he's at, his fitness isn't at a level where he can play in that left wing back position. So maybe it's been an enforced change, but as that left back, he's sat into that position at the left of the three, and has been able to use his attributes as a defender and as an attacking fullback to bring in and to become a very important player for this in what is a very key role in an Antonio Conte side, being that wide centre-back, but also being very attacking, making those underlapping runs inside, whether it's Reguilón, Sessegnon or Doherty, and playing a part in that attack. Of course, he got his first goal of the season against Newcastle at the weekend, and that's something that Gvardiol will really, really be good at. He's tall, he's quick, he's strong in possession. He's really good in terms of dribbling with the ball. At the time he had Alex on last season for the year in the Croatian league, he completed 75% of his dribbles, which for a centre-back is an absolutely insane number. And he's gotten involved in the attack with Leipzig this season already. He's had 2 goals and 2 assists in his 26 Bundesliga games. I think he's played about 90% of the minutes that Leipzig have had in the league this season. So strong in possession, and that continued into his time with Leipzig. He's attempting 79.4 passes per 90, which is the top 8% of Bundesliga centre-backs, and he's in the top 6% for carries per 90, attempting 63 on average for every game. And that's exactly what Tottenham need to bring in. I'll bring you up some stats on our current centre-backs after we discuss these two to show exactly why these are the perfect style of player to come in and improve his Conte defence. Gvardiol's stats continue to impress. He's above average for progressive passing. XG from ball progression, which shows that he doesn't just progress the ball for the sake of it. When he does do it, it is effective and he can get his team on the front foot and in good positions. His defending intensity, which is in terms of stepping out of that defensive line to press opposition players, to go in and make these tackles, to make interceptions, which I think is really important to Tottenham's defence at the moment. Having those centre-backs make that step forward into those passing lines to intercept that pass and be proactive in their defending rather than just waiting for an opposition to really progress in an attack and then try and sort things out there. We're really proactive in stopping that from happening at the source. And Gvardiol is a player who's really, really good at that. His only weakness is one that I would definitely put on our 2 wide centre-backs at the moment in Ben Davies and Christian Romero, and that is in aerial duels. He's not the best in the air, and that's something we definitely have to address. Christian Romero against Newcastle on Sunday, one of the best performances we've had for him at Spurs, which says a lot because he's had some incredible performances. He completed 6 tackles. He was so good with his distribution, won 8 out of his 10 ground duels, but he only won 1 out of his 5 aerial duels. I don't know, that's maybe a bit of a misleading stat when you're up against a player like Chris Wood, but Romero in the air is not what we would want him to be. Go back to that defeat at Turf Moor a couple of weeks ago. He lost Ben Mee and allowed Burnley to score that winner then. So that's maybe something we would need to address with this player as well. It is the same with Alessandro Bastoni, and his strengths are very much in a similar department as well. He's a player who really, really made his name and has turned into the player he is now because of Antonio Conte's impact with him at Inter Milan. And he's 22 years of age at the moment, and he is a mainstay in that Inter team, and he's looking likely to be a very important part of the Italian national side once Giorgio Chiellini retires, as mentioned by Jack Pitt-Brooke in his article. And when Conte went into Inter Milan in 2019, Bastoni was a 20-year-old, had never played for the team, never played for the first team, had been out on loan at Parma, and Conte identified him as a player who would really, really fit into what he was trying to build at Inter Milan, and he was absolutely spot on with that. He made him the player that he is and put him in that first team, trusted him a lot, not only with actually playing him in that first team, but with the role that he gave him, a very offensive role for a centre-back. And Bastoni's a player that since last summer I have been looking at for Tottenham to potentially bring in, because he offers so much, and he's so assured in possession, and he's even more so now exactly the player we need stylistically. And he has, of course, that love for Conte. He called him the Messi of coaches with exceptional football ideas, and he'll be able to deal with the pressure of being a key centre-back for us. He started 33 of his 38 games for Inter Milan last season when they went on to win their first Scudetto in over a decade. He's still crucial this season with Inzaghi, the new manager, coming in as well. He's in the 86th percentile in this area for ball retention ability. He's 94th percentile for defending intensity, which is, again, that pressing, that stepping out of the back line, making those proactive interceptions. He's in 95th percentile for attempted passes, just below Gvardiol with 70.9 per 90, but he is only 15th percentile for progressive passing, which shows that he is maybe more of a ball playing centre back in terms of he wants to keep possession and keep things ticking over, rather than being that man who makes things happen and who will ping those 30-40 yard diagonal passes, or as Romero likes to do, firing it into the midfielder's feet. He prefers to hold on to possession just a little bit more. His ball retention ability and link up play volume is better than Gvardiol. It's much better than Gvardiol. But also, like I mentioned, he is weak in the air, and that is a concern that Tottenham will have as we continue to concede from set pieces. So that's something that will need to be addressed. But those are two extremely good centre back options. Lil Bass said, great to have you back, Matt. Need to do more vids. I appreciate that. Thank you for the kind words. Matt as well says, so good to have these streams back. I appreciate it. Hopefully we're going to be here a little bit more over the coming weeks, and certainly over the coming months. Just quickly, the other two centre back options, of course, as I said, Nico Schlotterbeck, 22-year-old centre back / left back for Freiburg. Again, fitting that style of player who has that offensive ability, but also can play as a centre back to adapt into this really, really strange centre-back role that Conte has at Spurs. To be honest, the only thing I can really think of that I've seen quite like it is Chris Wilder's overlapping centre-backs at Sheffield United their first season in the Premier League. Definitely to a higher standard at Inter Milan and at Tottenham this season. But Schlotterbeck, potentially a good option, and not to be confused with his older brother, Kevin Schlotterbeck, who also plays for Freiburg. I was looking back, because I know we'd spoken about one of them on the channel with, again, the Euro expert last season. Well, earlier this season, actually. It would have been just before the turn of the year. And I heard the name Schlotterbeck, and I was going back to clip that and put it on here, but it was actually Kevin Schlotterbeck that we brought, that we mentioned, not Nico Schlotterbeck. So there is actually two of them there. So look, some very, very good options in that centre back position, and Tottenham very, very precise in the type of player they're looking for. And just to look at what I was mentioning, some of these stats. So I want to look first of all at this. Again, this is an article I did for the Opta Analyst. It's linked at the top of the description. So it'll be, if you go under the first paragraph, it'll be the first link down there if you want to look at the entire article, which is basically how Antonio Conte has improved our defence. So for Dyer, Sanchez and Romero, before Conte, you can see on the left column there their carry distance per 90, which has dramatically increased on that right-hand side, which I think has really, really solved the issue we're having with struggling with ball progression. I mentioned a lot that we needed someone in the midfield who can do that. We've got that in Rodrigo Bentancur, but our defenders have played a massive, massive part in that. And you can see there the improvement in carry distance per 90 and progressive carry distance in that second column there. Progressive carry distance. You have Eric Dyer and Davinson Sanchez more than doubling in that department per 90, and Christian Romero increasing as well by 89%. So some very, very good stuff there, and that has brought them into the top 10 in the Premier League for these stats. And again, it's for me, it's not so much looking at what Conte has managed to do to get them to this level, to get them in the top 10 in the Premier League, but you have to think about how far down that list they would have been when Nuno was in charge, because there was no carrying the ball out of the back. There was barely passing the ball out of the back. It was lumping it up the pitch and hoping for the best. So Conte really has worked miracles. And in terms of that defending intensity, looking at these pressures per 90 for Premier League centre-backs, you've Ben Davies and Christian Romero, those wide centre-backs absolutely shining in that department. The other three, interestingly, all Leeds players in Luke Ayling, Pascal Stroke and Diego Llorente. But exactly what Tottenham are looking for in these centre-backs are attributes that we've had to really instill in our current centre-backs. So if you imagine the level, it's like the level Davis and Sanchez are at when Conte came in, and the level they've managed to get to. The defenders we're looking at now are already at that level where Davis and Sanchez are at their best, and that improvement is only going to go more and more. And they're potentially world-class centre-backs that we could end up with at Spurs. Now, of course, we're not going to get Gvardiol and Bastoni. It will simply be one or the other. But either option is fantastic, and my preferred option is Bastoni because he's played in that Conte system. They know each other really well, and I've been pushing for this as something that Tottenham could do since last summer. So I really would love to see that happen. As Tony says, it's amazing what he's done to transform us. And Matt says, love this article. I really appreciate that, Matt. Anyone, as I said, if you want to read it, top link in the description down below. Sam, good to see you. Thanks a million for the Brian Daigle chant. Moving on to Sam Johnstone. And I saw a question there a couple of minutes ago. Leon says, Sky Better no longer offering odds on Sam Johnstone's next club. Reckon an agreement has been reached. Well, it was a couple of nights ago that it really came out from the ITKs on Twitter mentioning that Tottenham had... I don't think there was anything saying that we had reached an agreement or that we had the papers had been signed for Sam Johnstone to join Tottenham in the summer. but it's one that is looking extremely likely at the moment. And Alistair Gold had his say on that as well. And he said that Sam Johnstone is on a short list of 3 or 4 backup options for the goalkeeper position, and Tottenham currently are the favourites to get a deal done. Now, I put it out on Twitter. As far as I know, I think the thing saying, Tottenham or Johnstone will be a Tottenham player are a bit premature. As far as I know, it's not finalised, and it's not something that I think we can confidently say will happen because, look, both parties are interested. Johnstone would be happy to play for Tottenham. Tottenham want Johnstone, and there has definitively been contact between the two parties. But there are other clubs interested, and Sam Johnstone could go elsewhere in the Premier League and get more playing time. So this is one that isn't, it's not near done, or at least it wasn't a couple of days ago, the last I heard about it. But as Alistair Gold mentioned, Tottenham are the favourites, and for me, that's the writing on the wall for Pierluigi Gallini. Of course, we only have him in on a loan deal to start with, and we were, I think, hoping that he would have a good season for us and we can make that permanent in the summer. But I can't think of any reason why Tottenham would want to make that permanent. When he has played, he hasn't really been at his best. He's offered a few things that Hugo Lloris can't in terms of his composure and calmness on the ball and maybe that better distribution. But in every other regard, he's a fraction of the goalkeeper that Hugo Lloris is, and he's a fraction of the goalkeeper that we need on our bench for when a backup keeper needs to play. And I said it when we brought in Joe Hart last season. I think you can put the exact same thing on Sam Johnstone with the added benefit of Johnstone being a better keeper. But with these homegrown quotas and the players Tottenham are bringing in now, Kulusevski being Swedish, Bentancur Uruguay, Romero Argentina, we need to make sure we're meeting that homegrown quota. And there's no better position really to, I don't want to say sacrifice the position because of how good Johnstone is, but if we were going to bring in a player and kind of force a homegrown player into a certain position, I think backup goalkeeper is a good place to do that because you're not going to need him very often. But again, we have the added benefit of Johnstone being a very good goalkeeper and one that I think has a big future in football. It would be great if that was with Tottenham, if he did have a big future with us. We know when Hugo Lloris signed that 2-year contract a couple of months ago that he said he wants to help Spurs find that replacement for him, and potentially Johnstone is going to be that man. But let's wait and see. Jack and Nicky says, hello, Matty. Jack, so good to see you in the live chat. I really appreciate you tuning in. Everyone, make sure to go check out Jack's channels. I'm sure you all know where to find him at this point. But yeah, Johnstone is going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on over the coming months. And I think if we do get him, he won't be the only pre-contract signing we make. That is an area where Fabio Paratici really got some good work done with Juventus. The likes of Paul Pogba, Andrea Pirlo, Aaron Ramsey all going in there for free. It's something he loves doing, and I think we will see some more links with moves like that potentially coming out. One move that if it is going to happen, it certainly won't be on a free transfer, but I will say, I'll preface this by saying it's a deal that I do not think will happen, and that is Cesar Luis Merlo has said that Tottenham are one of the clubs who have asked about signing Benfica striker Darwin Nunez, and I'm sure the majority, if not all of you, have heard about Darwin Nunez in the last couple of weeks. He's been a revelation in the Liga Portugal for Benfica and in the Champions League as well. And it seems like every year we're talking about a new player coming out of this league and putting together these crazy numbers. It was Bruno Fernandes, and last year it was Pedro Gonçalves, and now it is Darwin Nunez. Of course, Luis Diaz as well, who we nearly signed in January. But Nunez, 22-year-old striker, attracting global attention. A lot of teams are interested, and there was a number of Premier League scouts at Benfica's Champions League clash with Liverpool on Tuesday, keeping an eye on the striker and kind of identifying whether or not he's worth paying what I would imagine would be a lot of money to bring him in. And that's really why I can't see this one being a signing that Tottenham make. Erwin, good to see you. Martin actually makes a good point. Is Gallini homegrown as he came from United's youth academy? First of all, Martin, great to see you and congratulations on the Limerick Voice. And a massive success for you, and I'm sure you're delighted that that's over with mainly. But Gallini actually could be, because I know he was in United's academy. I'm not entirely sure. Matt there says he missed out on homegrown by a year. So look, it'd be a benefit for us if we can replace him with a homegrown player and get one closer to that quota. But look, yeah, again, on Darwin Nunez, 21 goals and 3 assists in 23 league appearances this season, incredible return, and 5 goals in 9 appearances in the Champions League, including that one against Liverpool on Tuesday night. But it just feels like a Dusan Vlahovic sort of deal for me, and the Tottenham are interested, but we're interested because everyone's interested. We're interested because he's one of the most exciting young strikers in world football at the moment. I think Tottenham will probably be outpriced if we are going to to really pursue a move in this one. And Scorpions fan for life makes a good point here. Says, don't you think Nunez looks like another Carlos Vinicius? Similar goal numbers for Benfica, and that's a very important point, and one that I hadn't quite made that link with Carlos Vinicius. When you're looking at these weaker leagues, these leagues that aren't in the top five in Europe, you kind of do need to adapt the stats that you're seeing a little bit. And look, there's a few bits you can look at, and what I always look at, because Alex, again, the Euro expert, told me, is that you're looking at goals per shot sort of ratio, because we were talking about Julian Alvarez, and he said he had a goal every 2.4 shots or something, and that's incredible. Whatever league you're in, if you're getting a goal every 2.4 shots, you're going to be good in whatever league you go to. He, of course, in the Argentinian league. But if Nunez, for example, has a goal every 5 shots, well, you're going to really have to adapt that number to how many shots he'll actually be afforded per game in the Premier League, and see if that goal return will still be at that level. So a concern for whoever brings him in would be that sort of stat. And there's not to say he'll work in a bigger league, but he's definitely going the right way about making a name for himself and giving himself the opportunity to make a name for himself in a bigger league. But a good point there for that. A couple of more news bits from the last week. Nothing really to get too excited about, but Bild have said that Tottenham are interested in Konrad Laimer and have been tracking him since 2020. The 24-year-old has just 1 year remaining on his contract. And look, if you want to go to a Spurs YouTube channel and get the inside view on Konrad Laimer, you are in the wrong place. You'd have to go to the Cheese Room podcast. HG lives in Austria, massive fan of the Austrian player. So I'll be completely honest, that's your best place to go for Konrad Laimer information. Another player is Lautaro Martinez, who we did mention quite a lot last summer. And Gianluca Di Marzio has mentioned that a direct quote here is, Antonio Conte wants a new striker. Before he arrived at Spurs, Paratici tried for Lautaro Martinez, but it was not possible due to Lukaku leaving. I expect a possible Tottenham offensive for him. Then it is true that he has renewed his contract, but it is possible that Tottenham can present themselves again, and we will see what kind of offers they could present. Very good striker, one that I'd love to have seen come into Tottenham, but as Di Marzio mentions there, because of Lukaku's move to Chelsea, they couldn't afford to let him go. They did get him tied down to a new contract, but Inter Milan team that are kind of stuck for cash and have been really since Conte left. Ultimately, that was the reason Conte left. Someone like Bastoni or someone like Martinez are players that we could pick off them if we can make an appropriate offer. Moving on to a few players that will be staying at Spurs for the prolonged future, and the first one is Dejan Kulusevski, who of course at the moment is still only on loan at Tottenham, as is Christian Romero, which is kind of scary to think about. But Fabrizio Romano has said that Tottenham sources see Kulusevski as a Tottenham player already for the future. It's a matter of when they will trigger the clause to make the deal permanent, but they will get it done. So there's an option to make it permanent this summer. Otherwise, we'll loan him for another year, and then we could make it permanent next summer. But it sounds like it's going to be done this summer window. We're going to get that over the line as fast as we possibly can, and it's a no-brainer. You know, we've had situations with these players where it's been tough to kind of make that decision, but with Kulusevski, it's the easiest decision we'll ever make that permanent, get him tied down to a long-term contract, and he'll be at Spurs long-term. With Oliver Skipp, Dan Kilpatrick has said that Skipp is set to sign a new contract potentially this week, and it is a new lucrative contract that will earn him £80,000 per week on a 4-year deal with an option for an extension. So that's a good news on Skipp. The bad news is, of course, also from Dan Kilpatrick, who said that Conte's hopes of having Oliver Skipp available for Tottenham's run-in have been dealt a blow after the midfielder felt discomfort on his return to outdoor training, and this injury kind of continues to be a bit of a mystery. And Conte has been a bit critical of the medical team not being able to get Skipp back into training or back into match fitness, but whatever it is, it's a bit of a dodgy one. And personally, Oliver Skipp is a sensational footballer. He's been really, really important to us this season, and we do miss him, but it's not the end of the world for me if he does miss the rest of the season. For two reasons. First of all, I don't want to force him back, because maybe we're trying to do that a little bit, and that's he's getting these small niggly injuries, which is keeping him out for a bit longer. But also, as I was talking to Tony Young at the start of the stream, we're playing so well at the moment, and it's come at the perfect time of the season. And when you're in a top 4 race like we are with two teams, Tottenham and Arsenal, who can be so inconsistent, it's all about momentum. And it's all about that consistency, especially at the latter stages of the season. And we're playing so well at the moment with Højbjerg and Bentancur in midfield. We've won 5 of our last 6. We scored 21 goals. We're probably the best team in the league in terms of form. I don't want to go changing too much in that team. And of course, having Skipp there, if we do pick up another injury, would be crucial. But in terms of skipping a first team player, I'm not completely concerned about that for the rest of this season. But I think next year and beyond, he will be the first name on the team sheet for quite some time. To another midfield player who it looks could be, we may never see in a Spurs jersey again, and it is Giovani Lo Celso. TSC, good to see you in the live chat. Fabrizio Romano has said that Villarreal are happy with Giovani Lo Celso, and the plan is to open talks with Tottenham to keep him next season as well. So at the moment, there's no buy option included in that loan deal for Lo Celso, and that took me by surprise a bit, because there were big deals to get done in the window, I think, to loan out Ndombele and Lo Celso. We know there's an option to buy for 70 million in Ndombele's deal, but for Lo Celso, I mean, it's great to get him out, but you prefer to do that the first time with an option to make that permanent, so we don't have to do that exact same thing, that exact same task again 6 months later. It's good that he's playing well for Villarreal, and he was absolutely outstanding, apparently, in their victory against Bayern Munich last night. But hopefully that's one that can get done permanently, because, you know, if he's been at Spurs 2-3 years and he hasn't been able to do anything, then he goes straight to another team and is their best player. I think it's time to pack it in and let him stay there. Cesar Luis Merlo, who gave us that Darwin Nunez deal, has also said if Villarreal make Europe, then there's the intention to make Lo Celso's loan a permanent move. And a bit more detail, he said Villarreal want to buy Giovani Lo Celso. The Spanish club do not have an option to purchase him, but they will negotiate a deal with Tottenham to try and make the move permanent. Steven Bergwijn, of course, attracted a lot of interest from Ajax over the summer, and Romano has also said that Ajax remain interested in Steven Bergwijn after failing to land the Tottenham winger in January. And the Bergwijn situation, it's a bit of an enigma, because Conte from minute one said there's a place in this team for Bergwijn. He wanted to use him almost as a second striker. And then we're hearing through the press that he wants Bergwijn to leave, and he's happy for that to happen. Then Ajax come in and they want to get a deal done. It's looking good for all parties. But then he gets those 2 goals against Leicester, and Tottenham have a complete turnaround on that and want to keep Bergwijn. And we haven't really seen him since then. At the moment, he's probably on his best form of the season. He got 2 goals for Netherlands in the international break and got the score sheet for us against Newcastle as well. And I think that's 4 goals in his last 180 minutes or so, which is something we definitely haven't seen from him since he joined Tottenham. Excuse me. So it's an interesting one that's developing there. He also put that post on his Instagram story over the international break, talking about, I can't remember exactly what it was, but just something about not being valued, not being able to be at your best. So it's an enigma for sure, but he's a talented player, and I hope he does get what he wants, and he does have a good future. Whether that's at Tottenham or not doesn't really bother me too much. I'd be happy if it was, but if it wasn't, I think that's probably best for all parties. Harry Kane, I think we're going to be mentioning him in every transfer show we do. There's ridiculous links to Manchester United recently, but some positive news from Fabrizio Romano, and he says that I believe Harry Kane will be a Tottenham player next season if Antonio Conte remains at the club. Now, speaking about Conte remaining at Tottenham, there's a managerial domino effect that has been going on for quite a while, and there could potentially be one again this summer. Starting with Manchester United and their choice of Erik ten Hag or Mauricio Pochettino. It's Erik ten Hag. I think we're essentially just awaiting official announcement for ten Hag to go to United now. It looks like Pochettino will be leaving PSG this summer, regardless of Man United's decision. And Samuel Mokbel has now said that Antonio Conte is among the managers interested in PSG, as Pochettino is expected to leave this summer. That's a bit of a weird one for me. Look, of course, Conte is one of the best managers in the world, but PSG right now, all they're missing and all they want is a Champions League title. Whereas Conte is famously a manager who doesn't really care too much about European football and is happy to throw that to the wayside in order to achieve what he wants domestically. So I don't think that will be a match made in heaven. I don't think it'll be a match that will happen this summer either. I think with the way we're looking at the moment and getting into the top 4 at this stage of the season is so important. I think if we get there, there's no reason why Conte would leave, unless, of course, he wasn't backed in the window. But if he gets this squad into the Champions League and isn't completely backed, what's the point? What is the point of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club if we don't back him at that point? And top 4, I think, could be the difference. It could be make or break for Tottenham, not just for this season, not just for next season, but for a long time, for a really long time. So we lose Conte, this poison chalice job that we somehow managed to convince the Italian to take becomes more of a poison chalice. And do we end up back at another manager like Nuno? It's very possible, and I'd argue it's very probable. So top 4 and back in Conte could be huge for Spurs. And like I mentioned earlier, the level he's managed to get this squad to the players that he's bringing in or wanting to bring in this summer are players who are already at that level and already in a style that Conte wants them to be. He then pushes them on even further. And famously, the way Conte does things is he does well in his first season. He complains, says, I want more players. I want this. The squad isn't good enough, blah, blah, blah. And then second season, he blows up and things go extremely well. He wins the league with Inter Milan, or he wins the league with Chelsea, or with Juventus, he won it three years in a row. So we have a very, very good opportunity, and we really can't afford to mess that up. A few other bits. Dan Kilpatrick has said the Tottenham defender Sergio Reguilon and Ryan Sessegnon are both set to return against Aston Villa, and the Korean FA have said that Heung-min Son has completed his full Korean military service requirement. He's completed the full 544 hours of volunteering, so he won't be losing Son to military duty anytime soon. Some other reports from unknown or lesser reliability. Outlets Mundo Deportivo say that FC Barcelona remain interested in signing Tottenham defender Sergio Reguilon as they target a new left back. La Gazzetta dello Sport are talking about centre backs and say that Tottenham are still interested in signing Milan Skriniar, and they say that Stefan de Vrij is no longer essential for Inter Milan and could leave this summer. iNewspaper say that Tottenham are paying the closest attention to Christian Eriksen. The club are interested in reuniting with the Dane. Calcio Mercato say that Fabio Paratici is an admirer of PSG midfielder Leandro Paredes. You might remember he was linked with a swap deal to Tottenham when we were looking to move on Tanguy Ndombele in the last days of the January transfer window. And L'Equipe say that Tottenham are chasing Red midfielder Leslie Ugochukwu, who has been dubbed the next Patrick Vieira. And look, I think we all love Patrick Vieira a little bit at the moment after what he did on Monday night to Arsenal, but that's one that we'll definitely be keeping out. Another exciting prospect from the French league that Tottenham are apparently interested in. As we do every show, I've taken your questions on Twitter using the hashtag AskMattHayes. If you don't follow me on Twitter, that is my handle right below at MattHayesTHFC. And if you also go to the bottom of the description, there will be a link to my Twitter page, so make sure to go over and follow me there so you can get your questions in for these streams. We have the absolute legend that is Ellis Parish says, are you worried about all the striker rumours stemming from Harry possibly leaving? And look, that's a good point from Ellis, that it's one that I think we're all fearful of. I'm hoping and I'm expecting that we would look to bring in a backup striker, even regardless of Kane staying or going. You know, if he goes, I think we need to get two in. I'm not too worried about Kane going at the moment, because I said it last year that I thought that was his last chance to get a big move, especially with the amount of money Tottenham were asking for. You know, if last season City weren't willing to pay 130, 150 million pounds, I don't see why they would this season. He's 29 years of age now, had a very bad start to the season, and admittedly he's been one of the best players in the world, if not the best player in the world, since the turn of the year. But I think he's someone who's been so consistent and who has never had a dip in form in 6 or 7 years of football, that now he's had that first dip because he's pushing on an age, I think will make teams a bit more tentative if they are going to spend that sort of money. And you know, he wants to stay in the Premier League. Manchester United just aren't good enough to convince him to leave Tottenham, because if he's leaving Tottenham, it's to win the Premier League, and he's not going to do that at Old Trafford. Even with Erik ten Hag, with Pochettino, with Rangnick, whoever the manager is, that's not going to happen. His only option then is Manchester City or Liverpool. I can't see it happening to Liverpool. If it did, I'd hate football and I'd never watch it again. And for Man City, as Lung Anthony says there, they're going to get Haaland. So I think Kane is at Spurs for the rest of his career now, whether he likes that or not. But I like it. I like it a lot. A few other questions. Sebastian Warming says, if we sell Celso, would you give Ndombele one last chance next season, or try to sell him too? I'm done with Ndombele. I absolutely love his footballing ability. I love him and what I suppose what he could have been for Tottenham. But he's shining for Lyon at the moment. And like I said with Celso, if you're going to be so bad for us after we spend so much money for 2 or 3 years, then head back to another league and be the best version of yourself. I don't want you at the club, because clearly you're not giving everything to be that for us. But I wish Ndombele the best, and I know he can be one of the best midfielders in the world, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was that, if he ended up at a PSG or Barcelona or Juventus. I think he could be that, but for me, it's just not going to happen to Tottenham, and we need to cut our losses. But the very fact that Celso and Ndombele are going and performing very well for other clubs, we're going to get more money for them when we sell them. And that's the genius of these loan moves. Instead of shipping them out, you know, kind of getting back in 20 or 30 million in January for the two of them, we can now maybe double that. Well, probably not double. We can get 50 or 60 million for them because of how much better they've been and because of that form that they're showing. So it's worked out quite well for us, I think, these loan moves. Jack says, out of the 4 centre-backs strongly linked this morning, who would you most prefer to sign? For me, it's Bastoni. He's done it under Conte before. He knows the system like the back of his hand. He's only 22 years of age. And Gvardiol is a fantastic option as well. But for me, as he has done for the last year, Bastoni just stands out above every other option in that department for Tottenham. And I'd love to see him signed. Default Stereo says, with us needing a right wing back, potentially a left wing back, a left sided centre back, maybe a centre mid and a striker, should we be looking at homegrown options? And are there any that stand out and are obtainable? For definite, we definitely need to look out for homegrown players. Like I mentioned, Nakoda and replacing Galini with Johnstone, it could be important for us. In terms of right wing backs and left wing backs, with English players, there's levels here, and it's the very, very best. On the right, you're looking at Trent, James, and another one who I can't think of. But then the drop down to the next is a big drop, and there's none at the level that I think Tottenham can sign, in terms of they're not the best in the world, but they're good enough for Spurs, if that makes sense. It's a difficult kind of middle ground to find, and I don't think Spurs are there just yet. In centre-backs, I wouldn't say no to Tarkowski. Probably as a backup option more than a first team option. For centre mid, James Ward-Prowse is definitely the first name that springs to mind. For striker, if we could convince Tammy Abraham, I think that could be a good move, but it's probably not going to happen. But homegrown options definitely are ones that we should be looking at. Tarek says, what do you think of Rodrigo Bentancur? It's possible Bentancur is my favourite Tottenham player at the moment. He's absolutely sensational. And I also wrote an article for The Analyst on Rodrigo Bentancur. So it's the second link, if you look down in the description, when it was maybe 2 or 3 weeks after Tottenham signed it, before the game against Man City. And I was outlining exactly how he was going to transform Tottenham's midfield. And he has transformed Tottenham's midfield in those exact ways. He's been a stroke of genius from Fabio Paratici. And not only does he bring his own exceptional ability into the middle of our park, but he affects every player around him in such a positive way. And the main way we're seeing it is when we're in that block, that kind of 5-4-1 that we do. When we do go defensive, let's admit we do it. He steps out of defence to press, and Højbjerg follows. And I think that's really important, because he's dragging us up the pitch just by bringing in his own attributes. And I think that the calmness that he brings as well, the exact same effect that Christian Romero was having on the defence, a genius signing. And one that I think will have a very, very good and successful career at Tottenham. I'm delighted we got it done. A few people mentioning Cuadrado as right wing back. Look, it's an option. He was decent for Chelsea for a little bit, but I think he's had his better times in European league. So I'm not sure it would be a safe option. But if Conte wants him, I want him. Tony Young says Bentancur and Kulu have the attitudes that we want in players, not in Ndombele's. 100%, absolutely 100%. I've never seen two players come in at the same time and have the effect on Tottenham like those two have had. I really haven't. We got another Ask Matt Hayes there from God Save the Skip. Says, what happens to Pape Matar Sarr? Loan out in the summer, or will he be a fill-in for Winks? Look, I'll be honest, I haven't seen much. I haven't really watched much or kept an eye out for Sarr this season, because we've had our problems in our team at the moment. From what I know, he was decent enough at the AFCON. I think it was good to loan him back to Metz for the season, but if we really want him to step into this team sooner rather than later, I think we need to immerse him in the Premier League environment, even if it is getting 20 minutes away to Burnley. If that's all he gets in the season, that's a damn good baptism of fire to put him in there. Long Anthony is saying Metz are having a disastrous season, which isn't great, and probably more of a reason to get Sarr into our own setup as soon as we can. I think Winks will be gone in the summer. It'll be upsetting to see him go. He's a Spurs boy. We'd all love to have seen it work out, but it just doesn't look like it's going to happen, and we probably need to cut our losses. And I think Sarr would be a good player to get into the setup in his place. But look, we're going to have a lot of time and a lot of fun discussing Tottenham's transfer window this summer from now up until deadline day. I assume the last day of August. This is going to be your number one place for Tottenham transfer news on YouTube. So please do make sure to hit that subscribe button down below. We lost about 100 subscribers while I was gone for a few months. So let's get that number back up. Let's hit 13k as soon as we possibly can. Please do make sure to hit that like button as well. Let's see how many likes we're on for the video. We're only on 76, so it's 213 watching. Let's get that up to 100. Please do smash that like button. It would be greatly appreciated. Let me know in the live chat. Let me know in the comments what players you want me to talk about and what content you might want to see on the channel in the near future. It will be mainly transfer stuff, because that is my bread and butter. But look, I'm always open to suggestions from you lovely people. So to everyone who's tuned in, There's been nearly 600 of you. I really do appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining. And as always, thanks for watching.